Norse mythology, dwarves, you know you want some. Have you ever wanted to be a dwarf? Of course you have. Dwarves are awesome. They're short, they're hairy, they dig holes in the ground, and they're famous for stubborn personality. I'm not selling this very well. Regardless of whether or not you feel like you relate to these condensed Scotsmen portrayed in popular film, Nidavellir is a game of building up an army of dwarves by, of course, going to taverns, dickering with your friends about who gets first dibs on their dwarf of choice, and then recruiting the best dwarf for your army. Well, hopefully the best dwarf anyway. The game is laid out on the table as you see here, with each of these large shields representing a different tavern where the dwarves hang out, presumably to drink dwarf ale, play dwarf bar games, and do dwarf Tinder meetups. Tinder meetups! Dwarf connections only. Don't look it up. If it is real, it's almost... I don't want to know. Each round will begin with every tavern being populated by a certain number of dwarf cards. That number is decided by how many players are in the game. And one tavern at a time, you'll take turns picking which dwarves you want to recruit into your army. Now at this point, I know you have two burning questions. Who's gonna get first pick of these hairy half-pint warriors, I hear you ask, as well as, and how do we know which dwarf we want to pick? Let's tackle question number 1 first, since it ties in with one of my very favorite parts of this game. Every player is given 5 golden coins at the beginning of the game, and printed on the back is how much each of those coins is worth. Your highest value coin is worth 5, and your lowest is worth 0. At the beginning of each round, you'll look over these 3 taverns, deciding where you most want to have first dibs, and where you don't mind picking after your friends have had a go. Then you'll place a coin face down over each of the matching symbols on your personal player board, being sure to place higher value coins where you'd like first pick, and lower value coins where you're willing to pick later. This brings us to one of my favorite parts of the game, which is the 0 coin. And you may be wondering, why would they bother making a 0 instead of just a 1? There's gotta be a reason, right? Oh, there's a reason, all right. You'll notice that since there are 3 taverns while you have 5 coins, that means that every round you'll have 2 coins that don't get used. Well, if you ever bid on a tavern with your 0 coin, you will trigger its special ability. If you ever bid with your 0 coin, you will likely get last pick at that particular tavern, but you also take the 2 coins that you haven't bid with, flip them face up, and you get to replace the biggest coin there with an even bigger value coin from the bank. How much bigger, I hear you ask? Well, it is equal to the value of the 2 coins added together. In this case, I set aside a 4 and a 5, meaning I'd lose the 5 and replace it with a 9. And suddenly, you're a high-rollin' dwarf recruiting son of a gun. That's Nidavellir, baby. This flips the whole bidding situation on its head in the best way. Suddenly, rather than slapping down your 5 where you really want to have first pick, you're tempted to not use your 5 at all so that you can upgrade it to something that's worth even more. The ability to swap coins for higher value coins is hands down one of the greatest things in this game. Not only because it's so satisfying to watch your little pile of gold grow bigger and bigger, but also because it can make the bidding portion of this game so much harder to predict. You'll still have times where you accurately guess when someone's going to use a high-value coin to bid on a tavern, but you'll be surprised time and again when people choose to bid low or even bid zeros, and it's this unknown that keeps the rounds feeling juicy and unsure. The total value of your gold coins will actually be added to your score at the end of the game. So not only do you not want to get left behind in bidding power, but you're going to want to spend turns throwing down that 0 coin and upgrading your gold so that you don't get left behind in points either. This particular mechanism of upgrading coins just injects so much juice into this game. I love it. Now, the other important question that we brought up earlier is, how do you know which dwarf you want to pick? Looking at the dwarf cards in this game, you'll notice that they fall into 5 different colored suits. Green hunters, purple blacksmiths, orange miners, red warriors, and blue explorers. You won't need to remember the names of each suit so much as notice the different color, and be aware that each one scores points for you slightly differently. You'll want those points because the army that is worth the most points at the end of the game, they win. So, let's talk about how these dwarves can work for you. Quick side note, the general trend is that having a whole bunch of the same color helps that color to just do more work for you, but each one comes with its own incentives. Red cards are worth exactly how many points are printed on the card, but the player with the most red cards at the end of the game gets to count their most valuable coin twice in their final score. Green cards are worth the total number of green cards you have squared. But before you pass out from, traumatic math disorder, just know that the game has actually done all the math for you. It's laid out on your player board. You just line up your column of green cards next to it and you can see exactly how many points you're getting. It's okay. It's okay. Purple cards are similar to green in that all the math is done for you again. They just work in a sequence where each purple card is worth one more point than the last. Again, no math required. It's all right there. Blue cards are the simplest of all in that they just say how much they're worth, and that's it. No fancy bonuses or tricks. Orange is the only one that requires you to do a little bit of math. You add the points listed on all the orange cards and then multiply that by how many orange rank banners you have in your stack. So now you know that you're going to be building columns of different colored dwarves and that big columns are going to be worth big points. So why wouldn't everybody just pick one or two favorite colors and go for broke? Because of the other best part about this game. Every time you create a full row in your army that has each color of dwarf in it, you get to take a hero card. The dwarf hero cards each have a unique power or way of scoring you points. You'll notice that each color has two different heroes, many of which count as 2 or even 3 cards of that color. And beyond that, there are a number of uncolored or neutral heroes that each have unique powers too. Like Grid here, who as soon as you acquire her card, you get to swap one of your coins with another that's worth 7 more. Or Thrud, who can count as any suit and moves around from column to column in your army. Or the 5 Dwerg brothers. They don't have any special power on their own, but for every additional brother you add to your army, they're worth more and more points. I won't talk about what every hero card can do because I feel like that'd be pretty tedious for the video, but just know I haven't even told you about all my favorite hero cards yet. There are some really cool abilities that help every player feel unique and powerful. The game is divided into 2 halves, the first age and the second age. This leads us to the other best part of this game, which is that you're not only trying to outscore your friends once the game is over, but halfway through, whoever has the most of each color of dwarf gets a special bonus. This effectively breaks the game into 2 halves that feel like sprints, rather than a longer race where you'd need to pace yourself. In short, this mid-game reward system takes a game that already isn't that long, less than an hour, and makes it feel like it's going by even faster. Now, while my enthusiasm for this game is admittedly running a bit high, there are some cons, nitpicky as they may be. The included plastic display stands that hold up the hero cards are admittedly a nice addition to the box. However, they only give you just enough of them so that when you lay out all the cards as they suggest, they end up overlapping each other a good bit. This means that rather than seeing the broody art and the names of these dwarves, I'm only really guaranteed to see the symbols on the left, which admittedly are the most important part for gameplay, but it kind of hampers the feeling of recruiting a dwarven hero into my army, and instead I just feel like I'm choosing a card effect. Also, they are notoriously easy to tip over. Just make the base a little wider, just a little bit, and then they would stay up so much more easily. In the process of trying to film this, I've knocked this over several times without even meaning to. The other minor criticism I have has to do with the Royal Treasure, which is this pretty nifty little cardboard stand here in the middle that holds all the coins. It's actually a very cool and effective little piece to showcase what coins are available. It looks great on the table, and it's easy to see what's still available to upgrade to. That said, every time I try and pick the thing up, it starts to come apart. I'm sure this is an easy fix with a little bit of tape or a dab or 2 of glue, but it would have been nice if they designed it to be just a little bit sturdier. Nitpicking over! Do these things diminish my love for this game? No, they do not. Here at Of Card and Board, we heartily approve of Nidavellir. This game just makes you want to play it again as soon as you finish, either to try a new strategy with new hero cards, or just to see if you can beat your score from last game. The game plays solidly with 2 and gets more interesting and competitive the more players you add, as different heroes get snatched up more and more quickly, reducing the options available to you and sometimes forcing you to try new strategies you haven't tried before. This game is a good one. Thank you folks for watching this video and taking the time to learn about an awesome board game with us today. If you are interested in trying Nidavellir for yourself, there's an Amazon link in the description of this video. If you use that particular link, it actually helps to support the channel, so that's much appreciated if you're so inclined. Additionally, every 7 seconds, someone on planet Earth discovers that modern board games are way better than they even realized they could be. If you would like to learn more about such games, please consider subscribing to the channel. We have new videos every week. And as always, as we part ways in this digital wonderland, please always remember, an apple a day may keep the doctor away. But liking this video, that's just good for your investment portfolio.